Hi, welcome to my home farm. Today we're reviewing the LARQ PureVis pitcher with advanced filter.
So like most of you, we stopped using plastic bottles for water years and years ago, and now we switched over to the filters. And in the last few years, we've primarily been using the Brita filter, but we did try and use the Zerowater filter.
Correct.
And we'll put that review above so you can check that out. But we've recently received the LARQ Pitcher, and it's been really interesting to try it out.
So if you use the Brita or Zerowater filter, you can pretty much forget everything that those filters do because the LARQ is completely different in its approach. It uses what they call a two-stage filtration system. So the first point of that is the filter itself, which actually filters out a lot of the impurities in the water. And as a second point, it's got a UV LED system that basically decontaminates the water every 6 hours to make sure that there isn't any bacterial growth in the actual water container itself.
LARQ very kindly sent us this pitcher to try out for our honest feedback, and I have to say I was really intrigued to try it to see what the difference would be between it and the other previous filters that we've used in the past. To give you an idea of the kind of what my hang-ups were on the previous filters, the Brita filter, I just felt like it was really heavy and cumbersome, the model that we had. Every time you went to pick it up, you were like, oh my goodness. And it was just not ergonomically designed. So I just felt like it was constantly putting an awful lot of pressure on my wrist. And the actual filters themselves are just not intelligent. You put them in and they don't really know what they're doing. So they just put in and then immediately the clock starts to count down from the moment you put it in. So you kind of tend to go through filters just so fast. And obviously that is really not sustainable or good for the environment. And then the Zerowater, yeah, you have to see that review in its entirety. But that was definitely not for us. We did not have a good experience with that filter. So that very quickly got donated or given away. So that is no longer in the house. And then we went back to our Brita until this one arrived from LARQ. And first impressions is that it comes out of the box and the first thing you think is, wow, it's so pretty. It's just lovely. It's just really simple, slick, aesthetically pleasing, just looks very kind of Apple design-esque, if you like.
Very much so.
And it just sits on the kitchen counter, just really just kind of disappears into the aesthetics of the kitchen, doesn't it? And then I felt like not only was it just really nice to look at, but it was also very comfortable to actually use.
This has only got a 1.9 litre container, so that's automatically going to make it smaller. It's going to make it lighter. The Brita and the Zerowater were much bigger, so they were a lot more cumbersome as units. This one is a lot more compact and it is easier to use. We have received quite a bit of feedback on our actual Brita and Zerowater reviews saying that the reason that we had algae forming and we had green stuff forming and we had the not so pleasant smells that you mentioned on the Zerowater
Fishy.
was because we weren't actually storing the filter in the fridge. And that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, is because a lot of people do want to have countertop water filters. The LARQ filter addresses all of that using the UVC LED filter that it's got. So basically we've now been using this for over a month. We've had zero green buildup purely because that UVC filter is killing all the biological things that actually do form the algae in the actual container, and our filter has not been in the fridge at all.
I think that's important to kind of note that, because not everybody wants to drink cold water and not everybody feels comfortable. Maybe they've got teeth sensitivity or they don't actually like the sensation of ice cold water on the back of their throat. So, you know, I know that there's certainly members of my family who just will not, they cannot have ice cold water. They have to have it as just normal room temperature, much easier for them to swallow. So I'm also of that kind of ilk that I just prefer room temperature kind of water. I don't want it really cold. And I think if you don't want it really cold, then you have no choice but to leave it on the countertop, do you?
Most filters try and get rid of the smell of chlorine and the taste of chlorine. The LARQ filter also does that, but it goes beyond that. In addition to the UV filter that we've mentioned, the actual advanced filter that it comes with not only removes the smell and taste of chlorine, it also removes a lot of VOCs, heavy metals, something called PFAS, which is basically the stuff that comes from Teflon. A lot of what they call forever chemicals. It filters all of those out, which means that you're getting the purest possible water that you can.
I think another plus point is that the LARQ filters are plant-based, which is really, really great to know. And I don't think that we really kind of appreciate a lot of the time just how many impurities are still in our tap water in the UK, especially because obviously that's where we are. But in the UK, you kind of feel like you go into a restaurant and you just want to order, for example, a jug of tap water, and you're just quite happy to sit there and drink it because we've been told that drinking tap water is safe. Yes, it might be safe. I'm not sure if it's really healthy because there's still an awful lot of stuff in that water that's coming out of the tap. And then on top of that, they add the chlorine to kind of really kind of decontaminate it. So not only are you drinking water that's got quite a lot of chlorine in it, but you've still got a lot of impurities that are left in that water that are not necessarily very good for you long term.
So I've looked into the purification process that the UK water companies go through. Obviously, it's as good as it possibly can be, but they can't remove all things from that water. So the UK has got a lot of cadmium in the water. It's got a lot of VOCs, as I mentioned earlier, pharmaceuticals. These are things that they just can't simply remove from the water.
Pesticides.
So these are all things that, are present in the water, and so, obviously in some places more than others.
Yeah, antibiotics.
I mean, the list can just go on and on and on.
Yeah, it really can.
So having a filter that can actually remove as much of that as possible just means that the water that you're drinking that you think is healthy is in fact going to be healthier. Every time you fill the jug, the UV filter comes on, so it's automatically decontaminating that water. And if the jug is just standing by itself, every 6 hours it's going to come on for 60 seconds to decontaminate the water further.
And that's the blue light that basically comes on. It's really nice to be able to kind of walk past the jug and just see this very thin, nice, subtle kind of blue light. And you think, okay, cool, you're doing your thing. That's fantastic. Keep doing it.
So because it has got the UVC filter, it is battery operated. It's a really slick and very clever design. It just comes with a little charging point that clips to the top of the actual jug itself. We found that it drains the battery every kind of 3 weeks. Recharging is very, very fast. That literally, when you notice that the battery goes down, just leave it overnight. By the time you come back the following morning, it's fully recharged and ready to go. Being a smart jug, it also comes with an app. And the app is really cool because it shows you a lot of data. So it's showing you your daily consumption of water. It's basically telling you how old your filter is. So it is intelligently trying to monitor when that time is going to be to change that particular filter.
When it's really, truly expired.
It's also trying to calculate how much money you've saved on actually buying bottled water.
Wow.
And it's also calculating your environmental footprints in terms of what you're contributing positively to the environment.
Setting it up is really easy. To be honest with you, there really is no setup. So you just take it out of the box, give it a really good thorough wash and clean and dry, and then allow that to filter through. The first time we did it, it was very, very slow. So the first time you use it and the very first filtration that you do, it will be dripping very slowly and you'll think, oh my goodness, if this does this every time, it's going to take a long time to get any water. No, it was just the very first time. So just that first time, don't be in a rush to have a drink of water. Just let it do its thing. Let it filter through nice and slowly, and then throw that water away. And then actually, when you go to refill, you'll see that it just starts to speed up time and time again.
If you want to use the app, there is a bit of a setup that is involved. It's really quick and easy. You basically just get it on your phone. The two sync very, very fast. And once that's connected, you can access your jug at any point in time and get real-time updates with regards to the data that we mentioned earlier.
The jug that we chose was the pure white design, but it also comes in a very nice Monaco blue, which is kind of like almost like a kind of navy petrol blue color, which looks very nice too. So you got two options, and I think both those colors are actually just really nice because they're kind of really neutral kind of colors. So either one would look really nice. There are two filters available. There's the Essential or the Advanced. The Essential removes chlorine, mercury, cadmium, copper, and VOCs. And the Advanced removes all of those, plus lead, particulates, benzene, PFAs, PFOA, and pharmaceuticals. And to make sure you never run out of filters, LARQ do offer a subscription, so you can actually choose how many you need, how frequently you need, and I think something like the more you order or the more frequently you order, the more you save. So it's definitely worth checking that out. We've been using our filter for over a month, and it's still going strong and still really good.
As far as the all-important taste test, it obviously removes the taste and smell of chlorine. The water does taste very pure. It tastes really good. Obviously, we haven't tested it to see whether it has removed the cadmium and the VOCs and the pharmaceuticals, because how on earth would we do that? But you know, from that perspective, we've got to trust that they actually are filtering what they're actually claiming that they're going to filter out. And in terms of taste, it's been really nice.
Yeah, I definitely noticed when we first put the filter in those first few days. I mean, I think it was just such a difference from the previous, what we were using previously, and kind of your taste buds getting used to the kind of new flavor, if you like, because it was really, really pure. I even said to Mars that it's really odd how when you just kind of get used to drinking maybe kind of a slightly impure water, you don't really notice it. But when you drink really pure, clean water, your taste buds actually pick it up and you kind of go, oh my goodness, this water is actually really nice. It tastes fresh, which is a really odd thing to say, but it really did taste fresh and clean. And now it's been over a month and I'm not noticing that the water is getting any worse per se. Like I'm not noticing any kind of additional flavors coming in like the chlorine or anything like that. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the water is when it kind of comes to the end of life on the filter. I'm going to be interested to see kind of what that taste profile and how much it changes at the end of life on the filter. But at the moment, it's still great.
And the app's telling us that the water's great, and it is great. And for me, one of the biggest plus points still remains the fact that we haven't had any algae or any green stuff forming in the actual filter itself.
Yes.
It's a huge plus point.
I really like the Lark. I think it looks nice, it works, it does what it says it's going to do. I definitely think that it's worth the price point. I'm enjoying pouring. I don't actually feel like I'm getting that heavy kind of stress on my wrist when I'm pouring it out. So I just think it's a really nice water pitcher. So I'm really pleased with it.
So if you've got any questions or if we haven't covered anything, leave them in the comments below. We hope that you have found this review useful and interesting. If you have, give us a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button below, and we'll see you in our next video.
Take care. Bye-bye.